Hello everyone. Okay, so today's video what we are going to do is we will have a SharePoint 2013 on-premise environment. There we have a setup of Infopath, certain data that we are filling in and that is getting entered into the SQL server. Okay, so this is the Infopath and goes into the SQL server. Now Infopath does have the data connection for SQL Server directly, but then the data would have to be filled into the Infopath filler or the application itself. It won't open in the browser. And for that purpose, if you want to open it into a browser, a web service have to be created, and then the Infopath will enter the data into the SQL through the web service. So that is a setup that is there in SharePoint 2013. Okay, the data gets saved both in the SQL Server as well as the SharePoint form library. Now coming to SharePoint Online, if we want the same arrangement that the data should get entered into the SQL Server as well as the SharePoint list, what we need to do. So if from this architecture we are moving towards the cloud using PowerApp instead of Infopath, how can we move the data into the SQL Server as well? So this is the purpose of today's video. Alright, so let me take you to the on-premise environment first. So this is my SharePoint 2013 on-premise environment. Okay, so this is the SQL table. This is the server, right? Win71A169UUS7I. So that is the server name. This is the database through my name and the tables that we have created. So in this second table, we will be moving the entries or filling the entries in. Right? Currently there are 14 rows in this. Right? Entries have been made into this. The entries are being made into the name, due date, and area. These are the three columns: date entry, area entry, in where I've entered days or months. Instead, it says area, but whatever values was there that has been entered. Okay, so let's go to our info path form. Let's create one entry. So this is the info path form, a sample form that I've created. In here, this drop down is the choice column, which takes the value, even though it says area, it takes the values in days and months, right? So that's mainly because data connection that I have to list in this, it's days and months, so I can put anything in there and then the drop downs will show those entries, right? For this are so this is the Infopath template. As you can see, the data connections, right, through the web service. We have created the web service and submitting in there. SharePoint library is also there that we are submitting in there, and these are the entry. So there is a list by the name of entries which has that area, drop down, choice columns, choices, right? So, and this is a repeating table for attachment. Okay, so now we are submitting. In the submit option, allow user to submit this form, we selected perform custom action using rules, right? So there we have rules. In the data submit options, we have this submit option, and form submit we have the rules. So in the rules we have submit to both the data connection, the web service, as well as the SharePoint library, and that's how it's saving the form in both the locations. So let's check that. So this is our form. Let's select month, and even though say it's enter the value in months, it says I have actually the name parameter tagged with this. So I'm going to enter name here. Let's select a date. 10th, 10. Okay. So the parameters that are there in our table are due date, area, and name, right? So this is the choice column, right? That area, days and months is getting entered here. I showed you what are the connection entries. This is the name one, and this is the due date. If you go by Infopath, this is the area, this is the name, and this is the date. Okay, so these three parameters should reflect in there. Let's submit. Okay, so this is the one which got submitted. Let's see whether it's opening in the browser with the entries that we filled. And there we have it, right? And let's check our SQL. So this is the entry. From 14 it got increased to 15 entry, Alex, date, and month. Okay, so SQL is also making the changes and the library itself. Infopath you have seen. Let me show you the web service, right? So under farm solution, system settings, farm solution, we have our SharePoint project 1.WSP. Okay, so that is the web service. Here is in the browser. If we put layout underscore layout 15 SharePoint project 1 SQL web service dot asmx, we will get our web service, right? Inserted a name, due date, area. Those are the three. This is the Visual Studio Code in which we have our code, right? So it's calling the namespace project SharePoint 1, connecting to the SQL server, and then passing the three values: name, due date, area. So this is our this is everything. The web service, its code, right? The web service in the browser opened and shown you, as well as in the server where it's been deployed, SQL server that the entry is getting made. In the browser, we are able to open the form, and in the Infopath we're making the entry. So this is the on-premise. The Infopath through the web service goes into the SQL. Now if the same thing we had to do through in SharePoint Online, right, through PowerApps, how we are going to do that. So this is the site for our SharePoint Online. I've created a list by the name of SQL, title, due date, and area. So title, the name parameter will go into this. Okay, so we will click on the three dots, integrate, and Power App, create an app. We will give the name for our app and click on OK. It will take us to the Power App platform, and the name of the application is SQL that I gave. Here we are, right? So this is our Power App. We click on the database and then add database. Here we need to select SQL Server. We need premium license for this, as you can see. Then in here, authentication is important, right? We are going to select Windows Authenticate. I'm on my server itself, as you can see, right? So Windows Server non-shared. Choose a gateway. If you don't see a gateway or want a new one, you can install one now. Okay, to see the recently installed gateway, refresh this list, or so I will click on this. Once I do that, I'll get this page, and I need an on-premise data gateway, so I will download this. And this is what will get downloaded. Okay, so in here we will run this. Let's try and install this. Run. On-premise data gateway installation, getting ready to install on-premise data gateway. Please review minimum requirement for installing data, not meeting this requirement may result in bottleneck. I agree. Install. Okay, so it's asking email address to use with this gateway. Let's give that. You are signed in and are ready to register the gateway. Register a new gateway on this computer. Either or take an existing gateway. Okay, I am doing a new gateway. Next, you are signed in and ready. New on-premise gateway name. SQL connection. PowerApp. Configure. On-premise data gateway. PowerApp, Power Automate Central India. Logic App Azure Analysis Service Central India. Create a gateway in Azure. Azure one will create in the future sometime maybe. Gateway version. Service settings. Done. So add data SQL. Now since we have the connection here, let's connect. Servers. So we are connecting to this server and this database where we have our table, and here we have our table. So the table that we want to load to is the second table. Connect. It's connecting. Okay, so we have our connection. This is the basic form. So title, due date, area. So this is by default being picked up from the list that we created. So title, due date, area is just the three fields that we have created in the SQL. If you see, so we have the names, date, due date, and days. So areas, days, or months like that we have reflected. Okay, so the Power App application itself has built us a basic application. If I click on this and click on plus icon, we get the title, due date, right, area that we want to select. Okay, good enough. Now how are we going to submit it to the SQL as well as SharePoint list? Entries should reflect at both the places. So in here what we will do is the submit functionality, right? For that we will use the patch function. Okay, this is our submit. If we click on this, this is going to be submitted. So on submit functionality, on select, this is the formula that we are going to put. So let me bring it forth. Okay, so what is, so this is the formula, patch function, name of the source. So in here second table by SQL1, by default we are going to put second table, and then for in our SQL table the name of the first parameter is name, the data card value that it is holding off. So if we see here this one, this is data card value 4, right? So I mentioned data card value 4 and it's text, sorry. So we have text here, and then due date is data card value 5 and dot selected date, area is data card value 6 dot selected dot value. Okay, choice column. Okay, And then for the second one, patch again. So SQL is the name of the SharePoint list. Default SQL, the default values goes in there. And then in the list we have the first one named as title. Again the same value goes in there. Due date, same values as previous one, and in area data card value 6 selected. Okay, so this is our values that we have entered in the function, right? You can see dot value somehow gets error, so without dot value it's fine. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to test our application. So we will preview. Okay, now so let's create a new entry. Title. In the SharePoint list, title will go as title, and in the SQL table it will go by the name parameter. The name will put Alex. Let's put Alexander this time, and date, let's give 18th. Area, in here I've mentioned actual area's name. Let's select Mumbai and let's save. So if our patch functionality is correct, right, then both this entry should reflect. So let's Alexander, date, area, and in our SQL table previously there were 15 entries. Now we have 16 entries, and there is that Alexander, 18th, and Mumbai, right? So this is how you can have entries both in the SharePoint list as well as the SQL database through PowerApp, right? You can use the PowerApp functionality to actually submit data both in SharePoint list as well as the SQL database. That is all for today. Thank you. Maybe in a future video I will demonstrate the whole on-premise environment, the web service, how to create the web service, as well as the SQL table, how to create that, the Infopath. Maybe in a separate video we'll have that on-premise environment structure. Like this full structure, maybe in another video I will explain how to create it from scratch. Thank you for your time. Have a good day. Bye bye.